That was the greatest Uber driver ever.
Yes, completely agree. And also a great name. Baby.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, such a great name. Either way, what are we watching today?
We are going to watch an excellent film called Dogma.
Ooh, a Kevin Smith classic. Grab your popcorn. Welcome to Grab Your Popcorn. I'm your host, Brian Kroc. Along with me is David Kalisa.
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
So, we went around for a couple of different movies this week.
Yeah, it was a hard decision, but I think ultimately we made the right choice.
And we pushed off some other stuff because we want to have some guests on coming here in the future, and they want to do some very particular movies. So
yeah, we're going to bring some other people in on the fun. We can't have all this to ourselves.
Yes. And we wanted to do that, from the get-go. But we wanted to establish ourselves and our rapport together. But today we are doing a Kevin Smith film, and it is not my favorite Kevin Smith film, but it is definitely a good Kevin Smith film.
It is a great Kevin Smith film.
And that is Dogma.
Dogma.
Yes. So I remember when Dogma came out because me and our mutual friend Jacob, we went to see this movie hoping that there would be protesters outside, and there weren't, and we were really disappointed.
That is very disappointing.
But it was up here in Edwardsville at the what was then the Carasota's Showplace 12, which was actually my first job. Yes, my first job was working at a movie theater. I didn't work there for the money. I worked there because I could go see free movies. It's that simple. I saw Gladiator like 6 times. I saw American Beauty like at least 5 times. And back in that day, I also saw Pitch Black, like the first real Vin Diesel film. Like I saw that one like 8 times.
Hey, when you have perks like that, you got to take advantage of them.
Yeah, and I could go every day. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'm just going to go see a movie.
We should get part-time jobs.
Part-time jobs at movie theaters. God, working at movie theaters sucks, though. It's just...
That's why it's part-time. You just do one day just to get the benefits.
Yes. I can go see free movies and free concerts.
There we go.
Just how it'll work. But yes, we're doing Dogma today because it's we just felt like it because we knew it was a movie that we both loved, and we both could talk about for a good long while because it's a movie we've seen multiple times.
The cast in it is extensive and awesome, and just the pure hilarity of the film.
It was one of the first bigger budget films that Kevin Smith did. Because Clerks was really small. Then he did Mallrats, which was really small. Then Chasing Amy, which was also. I mean, it was definitely a higher budget, but it was still a smaller cast. And then he bust out Dogma, which he actually wrote, I think, before he even did Clerks.
Really, I did not know that.
Yes, and he wanted it to be like the sequel that he did right after there, but he thought that the script wasn't good enough, so he wanted to rework it, and that's when he decided to move on to Mallrats.
Well, thank God he waited because it now is excellent, and no telling how much would be missing if he would have just done it right after that.
Yes. So let's get into the actual plot of the movie. And it's not really made apparent in the very beginning what the actual plot of the movie is, but or at least some of the more secretive aspects of the plot goes. But if you haven't seen this movie, that's on you because this movie is like 19 years old, like going on 20. So I mean, it was released in 1999, so that should tell you should have seen it already if you haven't. The basic plot is that these 2 angels who were kicked out of heaven but not sent to hell, they were forced to live out the rest of existence in Wisconsin, decide to try and get back into heaven by using dogmatic law via the Catholic Church to forgive themselves of their sins and then kill themselves and then go to heaven after that.
It's simple as that.
Simple as that. Unfortunately, by doing so, it proves God wrong, and therefore the entire everything in existence would just pop
Disappear.
out, just go away. And so this person who is called the Last Scion is called upon to go and embark across the country with 2 prophets and an apostle.
I can't do it. I can't keep a straight face while you're trying to lay out
Yes.
this plot. Because
With 2 prophets and an apostle who's not in the Bible, and an abstract concept with a human body. Along the way, they run into many adventures. But either way, that's the gist of it. 2 guys are going to do some bad stuff, and a group of people are going across the country to stop them. Yeah. Along the way, you learn other things. There are other villains that make appearances.
you learn many other things.
And there's also a rubber poop monster. So yes, so here's the thing that I loved about this film is that it's a classic Kevin Smith film. It is the straightforward, like, comedic timing with the script. It's well written out, and it's that style of comedy that Kevin Smith does, which is these long, drawn out monologues of things that are funny that nobody ever really seemed to notice before.
And not only are they funny, they are intelligent. They are brilliant. They are extremely well written.
Yes. And I'm not a Catholic myself. I grew up, in church and stuff like that. I know that your family, and you were raised Catholic,
Yes.
right? And so, like, you probably have a little bit more insight even into some of the humor that is in this film that I didn't pick up on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the whole, like, church presence. I mean, the scene where you first see the lead actress sitting in church, and you have just, all these people that are just sort of spaced and zoned out. You get it because it's, there are, churchgoers that are like that and everything, but just he takes it just enough a little bit over the edge where you're just like, okay, that's a little bit far-fetched, but still really funny. You have these kids that are just destroying each other, in the seats. As a guy, wearing some headphones, listening to some music during the middle.
Yes.
Of the priest talking and whatnot. And it's
I still say one of my favorite scenes in the movie is in the very beginning, and it's the Bishop Glick with the Catholicism Wow campaign, like revamping certain things of the Catholic Church. That initial scene just still cracks me up because it's just so well done, and like you almost kind of look at it like, I firmly believe that there is a church out there that would actually do this.
Well, and there's also, some people would firmly believe also that it's something along those lines. Probably not to the nature that Kevin Smith does.
Yeah.
But something like that does need to be done to kind of revamp the Catholic look and just the whole premise of it.
Yes.
Just to kind of intrigue people a little bit more and get out of the boring church-going phase that is portrayed in the film and that is talked about at great lengths in some scenes.
Yes. So let's kind of go back again into the plot of the film, right? So, like we said, we have our two
angels,
antagonists. I guess the way that they're technically the bad guys. They're not the ones.
They're just trying to get home.
Yeah, they're trying to get home.
They're not trying to do anything bad.
Their intentions are good to begin with, but it kind of devolves into something very bad.
Then it becomes very bad.
Yes, but the two angels, Bartleby and Loki. Bartleby was what was called a Watcher, or they called him Grigori, and Loki was the Angel of Death, who was responsible for Sodom and Gomorrah and the plagues and like all that kind of stuff back in the Old Testament. So Bartleby and Loki, like after they'd gotten done doing some slaughtering and stuff, got drunk.
Yes.
And then Loki went to God and said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not killing for you anymore."
Threw down his sword and gave him the finger.
Gave God the finger. And then after that, God decreed that all angels could not drink alcohol, and he banished Bartleby and Loki to Wisconsin. of which, considering what time this might have been, there probably was nothing there to begin with.
Except for the Packers.
So after they get kicked out, this is what sets up the plot, is that they are forever banished from paradise. And they even say later on when what is it, the Metrodon, is that the voice of Metatron? That's what
Metatron.
The Metatron. When the Metatron, the voice of God, shows up, he even says that, saying that like it's like not only do they have to sit in Wisconsin this whole time, like, but even after everything ends, they have to sit outside the gates like for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, God really does not like being given the finger.
Yes. So what happens is with the Catholicism WoW group, they're trying to revamp everything, and they get the Pope to decree a plenary indulgence. I think that's kind of how you say it,
Yes.
right?
Planetary indulgence loophole. And
Yes,
by doing so,
by doing so, anyone who walks through the gates of the church, which is like it's like 100-year-old church or something like that, anyone who walks through it is given a clean slate. They are forgiven of all sins, and angels can become human if they remove their wings. And so this is where the angels are like, "Ha! We can go there, remove our wings, walk through the gates, then we die, and then we go to heaven, and boom, we're home." This was all set up by a demon known as Azrael, and Azrael is just a trickster kind of demon. He's just
a bad demon.
He's a bad dude. And because of all this stuff going on, the Metatron then goes and contacts the Last Scion, otherwise known in the story as Bethany Sloan, who unfortunately, and I don't know why Kevin Smith decided to do this, she is an abortion clinic counselor. So
you know exactly why he did it.
I don't, that was the one part of the story that I was like, really? Like it just didn't seem to make, like, I don't know, he could have picked any job and it would have been fine.
No, it makes total sense. It makes total sense because even though she's a Catholic, she's in a sense lost her way and lost her faith, and that's why she's okay working there.
Okay.
You know, like with everything she went through with her husband and, her her problems and whatnot. So, she is okay doing things that maybe at one point in
Bethany
life.
actually originally turns down the Metatron, basically saying, like, where was God when, an infection destroyed my womb, or when my husband said, I can't be with a woman who can't bear me children, and that kind of stuff.
So, she's basically going to church out of just, pure repetition. Like, she's just used to going. It's not because she still feels what she used to feel.
Yes. The thing that I did like about that, though, is that the Metatron then says something along the lines of, it's like, so what if you've got a grudge against your creator? It's like big deal. It's like, get over it and do your job. Like,
suck it up, Buttercup.
Exactly. So this then, like, she gets recruited, and Metatron says, hey, you will along the way be given some help with the form of 2 prophets. These 2 prophets turn out to be Jay and Silent Bob.
Woo!
Of course, who are the characters who come back in every single movie that Kevin Smith does, with the exception of his recent horror films. They don't show up in there, but
no.
But Kevin Smith has said that he will. He's doing another movie with them called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which cracks me up. I'm looking forward to seeing it if it actually gets done.
When I went to his podcast with Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, he actually talked about the making of that at a pretty good length, and him and Silent Bob read a quip from the script to the audience and whatnot. So that was really, really neat.
Nice.
Totally looking forward to that.
Nice. So the reason that she meets the prophets is because they rescue her from these 3 little mini demons that are going around and killing people and doing stuff too. That they show up. They call them the Stygian triplets. I don't know why they call them the Stygian triplets. But
I don't know why they make the sound effects that they do when they're rollerblading around.
Yeah, whenever they're rollerblading around with hockey sticks, because they do. There's like the sound of flies and bugs.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, who cares? It just is what it is. So yeah, meets Jay and Silent Bob, and then they start making their way to New Jersey because that's where the church is.
Right.
Along the way, Bartleby and Loki decide to get back on God's good side by going and taking out the golden calf of Mubi, the golden calf, and taking out basically the entire board, with the exception of one, because she was a good person.
But she did not say "bless you" when he sneezed.
Yes, but they show up and they just annihilate these people, and it's if you're one of those people that actually finds like that level of comedic violence funny, like me
and me, it's a great
scene because they don't actually show anything. You just hear him like yelling at them.
You hear it. You see the blood splatter.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like all off scene. You know, like off shot. It's like, but the fact that he's like, "Don't run, don't run."
Like, it's extremely morbid, especially with a lot of events that have happened these days.
Yes,
but just don't think about that.
Yeah,
just take it for what it is.
Yes,
and it's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in the scene, going at this. So it's kind of hard not to like them going into that scene.
Exactly. So after this,
yes,
then the good party get their next person on their side,
the 13th
apostle, Rufus,
who's black,
whose entire reason for being there is so he can get his name put back in the Bible as the 13th apostle, because Jesus was black, but all the rest of the apostles were white. And so that's why the church was just like, no, let's remove the one black guy. We'll just make Jesus like
white-ish.
Like, you're not really saying anything about what his ethnicity is. It's like, and then all the rest of the guys are white, and we're fine with that. So that's his entire reason for being there. It's all completely self-serving. But he has some of the best lines in the entire movie.
Well, it's Chris Rock.
And so he's just got some great ad libs. It's like, I especially like it because he shows up and he's completely naked in the beginning. And he's like, well, I used to be called Long Rufus, but it's kind of cold out here. You catch me, right?
Kill it. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
He's like, later on when he's talking about getting stoned to death, and he's like, so you were stoned to death. He goes, you could call it that. It's like, or you could call it being bludgeoned to death by huge freaking rocks.
Once again, extremely morbid, but hilarious. Just trust us. It's hilarious.
And so, yes, they meet Rufus, and they proceed along the way, and he gives some more background into what's going on and the situations and stuff. This is when they run into the next person in their party, which is Serendipity.
The Muse,
who is an abstract concept who is down on Earth because she has writer's block.
Well, she went to Earth specifically to just do her own thing. And then when she went to do her own thing, that's when she developed writer's block.
Yes.
And so to pass the time, she became a stripper.
Yes. But as she explains it, that she is responsible for 19 of the top 20 grossing movies of all time. And
the one that she is not responsible for is Home Alone.
Yes.
Somebody made a deal
which I loved, because the way she explained it, she's like, the one with the kids in his house with the burglars. And it's like, I had nothing to do with that one. Somebody sold their soul to the devil for that one. That cracked me up, because it was such a great way of like, everybody knows what she's talking about. But but she doesn't have to. She doesn't say the name.
99. That's really close to the Home Alone series, and
yes.
And
we've had several movies jump up into the top 20 now, but that was still just, that one cracked me up a lot. This is also where the rubber poop monster shows up.
The Golgothan. The Golgothan. Shit demon.
Yes. Basically from all the poop of the people that were executed on Calgary. Crucified, after they lost control of their bowels. Like that sort of, all that malice and stuff formed into a poop demon, which tries to attack the crew.
And is taken out in one swift move by Silent Bob.
Yes, because Silent Bob takes care of most situations in a Batman-esque way. And then this just keeps progressing along, right? Yep. They make their way over to New Jersey, where they are then confronted by Azrael.
Oh yes, yeah. Who is there to stop them from
stopping Bartleby and Loki from making it to the church. And basically this is where Azrael explains. It's like he was in heaven. He was doing his thing. He was an artist. You know, he didn't want to get involved in the war and all of that, and so that's why he got sent to hell. It's like, and then it's just like that's it. It's like, I cannot exist like this anymore. It's like everything just has to go, and so that's how he sets everybody on this course.
Yeah, he says he'd rather not exist than to go back to anything related to hell.
Yes,
which is pretty true statement, you know, to take a step back and look at it.
Yeah. This also leads to one of the other gruesome jokes in it. He's like, when they're at a bar and he's waiting around and he's like, all right, what can I get you? And he goes, can you get me a holy bartender?
I don't know how to make that. You don't? Let me show you how.
And then he pulls out an assault rifle and shoots the bartender a lot. So yeah, there's another morbid joke. But there's
it's funny though. Just remember
funny.
It's funny.
Yes, and they're held down in detention in this bar, waiting for the end of all things, and they fight their way out.
Yes,
due to the bishop's golf club.
Yep, he was one of those guys that he decides to bless his clubs for a better game, therefore making all of his clubs an instrument of God.
Yes.
Which ultimately ends Azrael with a driver to the chest.
Yes.
Excellent scene. And then they fry the little Mighty Duck dudes in the bar wells.
Yes.
With holy water.
Yes.
But another excellent scene. And then they finally get to their final confrontation with the angels outside of the church, where Bartleby has gone on a killing spree.
Yeah, he lost it.
Essentially becoming the new angel of death, not for God, but just for himself.
Yes.
Taking on the role that he talked Loki out of. Another really cool thing to pay attention to when you once again, take a step back and look at it.
Yeah, he really just goes off on humanity.
Yeah.
And like anything relating to people, he just goes out and starts killing in a very bad way.
Yeah,
like that one dude he picks up and just drops him.
Oh, yeah, there's a few of them. He's just dropping them from miles up in the sky.
But he also removed Loki's wings, therefore making him human, and Loki immediately gets drunk. And,
morbid, but funny.
Yes. And then this is where he's just like, he just snapped.
Holy shit! And then when he recognizes the muse, that to me, that's one of my funniest parts too.
He's like, look at you.
He kind of looks at it and he goes, "Hey, can I?" And he goes to touch her a little bit. She's like, "No, stop it!" And he's like, "Oh man, like come on, I'm human, I'm drunk, and like that sounds bad. I know, but this whole movie is like that. Just remember, it's funny, and plus she's not even." Human. She's an abstract. It's not even her body.
Yes, it's a fake body technically.
She's not even anatomically correct. She shows them.
Yes, but she, So they're confronting them. They confront Bartleby, and this leads to Jay busting out an Uzi.
Yep,
and trying to save the day.
And ultimately, all he does is make him human. He just furthers on the process and helps Bartleby out.
Yes. But I would like to point out there are a couple of really funny moments. Very early on in the movie when she's talking when Bethany is talking to Jay, and they're trying to negotiate their terms of taking her across the country. He basically says, he's like, what if we're all about to die? 5 minutes left to live. He's like, a bomb's about to go off or something. He's like, would you
have sex with me?
Would you have sex with me?
Yes.
If that's in that unlikely scenario. And so when they get close to about the 5-minute mark of the world ending,
he starts taking his hands off. What are you doing? You said if we were about to die,
5 minutes left.
Let's do this thing.
So this then leads to the realization by Bethany, though, that the reason why God hasn't stepped in and taken out everybody basically is because God is actually locked in human form because he likes to go to
the boardwalk.
and play skee ball.
Skee ball.
And in the very beginning of the film, there's this dude just there looking at the water, and he gets taken out by the Stygian triplets and knocked out and put into a coma. And it's kind of a recurring thing throughout the rest of the series or rest of the movie that, oh, there's this dude in Jersey who's in a coma. Bethany realizes that God is stuck in his human body in a coma. And so she goes to the hospital, which is luckily right next door to the church.
That's just 1 block away. It's right there. You can see it in the background.
Goes there, pulls the plug on him, and kills him, so he can then go back to heaven and then reset everything.
Yes, and of course, in true Hollywood form, she literally pulls the plug as Bartleby opens the door, allowing God to step out in front of him and prevent him from entering the church, and thus negating all existence.
This brings one of the best cameos of all time for me. Like, not even because I'm a super fan or anything like that, but just because I thought it was so funny when I first watched it. But Alanis Morissette plays God. And so she just like walks out of the door. He's like, and there she is. It's like, there's God as Alanis Morissette. Like,
as if enough other things weren't crazy with this film.
Yes,
let's throw that in there.
Why not? Let's do that too. And so that's where God shows up, stops Bartleby, says a word, and because he's human, his head explodes and his heart bursts out of his chest.
It was. I think, especially for the time that the film was, that's probably a really cool scene.
Yeah,
because it was, that's just the whole entire just earth, and the screen is just shaking. You can't tell what's going on, and then head and chest explode as the Metatron explained would happen earlier in the film. We went through 5 atoms before we figured that one out.
Yes. But yeah, when God speaks, the Muse and Rufus protect Jay by covering up his head so he can't hear anything, and this leads to one of the most like expletive laden like monologues in movie history of him just like going off on everybody.
Why'd you guys cover my head? Why the fuck is that dude dead? Who the hell are you?
Yes,
right in God's face, just going off.
And then God just sort of calmly goes up and she kisses him, right? Yeah,
something like that. Something to calm him down.
She kisses him, and then he just like freezes, and he's just like, oh,
okay, I'm fine now.
It's like, all right. But yeah, this is basically where the story ends. Everybody is saved, and this is also where you find out that Bethany is now pregnant as well, because yay, we like happy endings. And that's really it. That's the gist of the story.
Yes, that's
the humor comes in the myriad of ways along the path to this end, but this is definitely one of these movies where the script is the driving force. It is not plot points. It is not, like the setup or any of that.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. The dialogue and the delivery
is yes, the dialogue and the delivery is the real like driving force of the film. And so that's it. You got the plot. You got most of the scenes. There you go. I'm sure if you haven't seen it, we've just spoiled everything for you. No, we haven't, because you haven't heard the dialogue yet. And you will laugh your head off.
You also do not have the visualization of everything that happens in all those awesome scenes.
Yes.
Not even close to giving it the justice that it deserves with just talking about it.
Yes. So, let us get into the cast.
Oh, my God, the cast.
So, there are a couple of...
Do we have enough minutes in the day?
Yes. there are a bunch of people who are in the... View Askewniverse, okay? Because that's the universe that Kevin Smith like writes all of these films in. So they all kind of have a weird continuity to them. Let's start with some of the lesser known players. We got Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante Hicks in Clerks, and he also played one of the suitors in Mallrats, and then he plays Grant Hicks, which is a relative. He always plays a relative of Dante. But yeah, Brian O'Halloran, he's been in a few movies, but mainly Clerks and Clerks 2 are like his two biggest
hands
films
down,
that he's been in, but he does show up in other stuff occasionally.
Yeah, little supporting roles and whatnot, but which is a shame because I think to be in a Kevin Smith film,
yes,
and also be a lead in a Kevin Smith film, you have to have some level of genius to you.
Yes,
and you have to have obviously a really good way with the script and whatnot.
Yeah,
and if he's going to choose you for some leads, then he's a great actor and not being utilized enough by Hollywood, in my opinion.
Yes. So then this also leads to Brian Johnson and Walter Flanagan, two very close friends of Kevin Smith. They also run the comic book store of Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash and are on the TV show Comic Book Men. These dudes show up in practically every film that Kevin Smith does, with the exception of Brian not being in Clerks because he had a falling out with Kevin at the time. Also, if you didn't know, whenever Rufus is like really kind of trying to prove that he knows everything about Bethany, he says, when you were a kid, it's like you let a boy
pee on your hand.
And she goes, I never told anybody about that. And he goes, and neither did the kid. He's like, and 2 years later, he died of leukemia. His name was Brian Johnson.
There's his plug.
I thought that was kind of an interesting little twist to put in there. Brian Johnson and Walter Flanagan. Walter Flanagan actually in Clerks, he plays like 3 or 4 different roles in the movie, and if you go through, you can like spot them after a while because you're like, oh yeah, that's the same dude over and over again. Jeff Anderson is who is also in Clerks and Clerks 2.
Randall.
I mean, he's not an actor by any stretch, but he's definitely one of the hearts of that series.
Jesus Christ! I could not imagine somebody else playing Randall. I mean,
especially in Clerks 2, where he's got such a great character arc.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he's so good. I know he's not really a trained actor, but he nails that, and you really feel for him at the end of the film. So I think Jeff Anderson is actually a good actor, even though he's not a trained actor.
Exactly.
Let's see. Then we got Scott Mosier. Scott Mosier is actually Kevin's producer and does a bunch of stuff, and that actually goes back to when they met in film school, because they originally said hey, if I direct a movie, you'll be my producer, and Scott was like, if I direct a movie, you'll be my producer. And I think Scott's done like 1 or 2 movies. I don't really remember, but none of them have achieved Kevin Smith levels. But that's okay because Kevin Smith only achieved those levels because Scott was his producer. So
they found the pair that works and they stuck with it.
Yes, they are a good team to get stuff done. All right, so let's get into some of the other players of this one. We have Janine Garofalo in a small part of a coworker of Bethany's.
Oh yeah, her the other woman that works at the clinic and whatnot.
Yeah,
wasn't she the bowler from Mystery Men?
Yeah,
yes. Okay.
And she's been in a ton of stuff, and she's a comedian in her own right. And actually, even though she and I disagree a lot on political stuff, as I'm sure you do as well, just a little bit, she is actually really funny when she's doing her just straightforward comedy.
Yes.
It's when she gets into the political stuff, that's where I'm like, okay, whatever. But when she does her her regular routine stuff, she's really freaking funny. Then we got, let's see, Jason Lee as Azrael.
Very, very excellent actor. He made it big. A lot of you probably know him from My Name is Earl.
Yes, which is why in Clerks 2 he looks like he's on the set of My Name is Earl because he was filming that show during that time. Because Earl has a very distinctive look to him.
Just slightly.
Jason Lee also, most people didn't know this, professional skateboarder at one time. And yeah, it's I've seen some of the stuff where some of the videos of him back in the day, and he was a solid skater.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he developed tricks and stuff like that too. So he was a cool dude. He's still alive. He's still doing stuff. But yeah, Jason Lee is one of those guys that really made a name for himself in Mallrats.
Yep, yeah, he's a big part, I feel, in the View Askew universe as well.
Yes,
made recurring roles
in Chasing Amy as well.
Yep.
and then he's got a couple of bit parts in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and then also in Clerks 2. And
it's funny, in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, he does 2 different parts.
Yes, 2 different roles, because why not? And then let's see here. We got Jason Lee there. Let's do Alan Rickman, the great and powerful
Our second movie of his, ironically.
Yes, as the Metatron.
The voice of God.
Do you know how he got the part?
No, I do not.
He was a fan of Chasing Amy.
Really?
And Kevin Smith found out about it, and they were like, okay, you're in my next movie. It's like, please.
Because why not?
Please be in my next movie. And so they
Legendary.
Gave him the Metatron, the voice of God, and he delivered some of the best lines in the movie. Just hands down, because it's that British humor, and it's just that Alan Rickman, like quietly pissed off.
What are you going to do? Hit me with that fish.
I love that.
The most drawn out F ever, and it's for just a really, really weird word, but it once again makes the scene because it's Alan Rickman.
Yes, Alan Rickman has just some of the best lines in the movie, and I cannot speak more highly of any movie that he is actually in. I have never seen him in a bad role.
No, I cannot say that I have either, but I think that, Die Hard aside, this is probably my favorite role of his. Just because, people are so used to seeing him as a serious actor.
Yes.
And whatnot. And, to see him in the comedic role that this is, and especially for the type of humor that this whole movie has throughout its entirety, it is awesome.
Yes. All right.
Who's next on the bill?
Jason Mewes. Jason Mewes is famous because Kevin Smith wrote parts for him where he basically got to act like himself. To maybe a higher degree, but
I can't imagine it being much higher because he already seems like an eccentric enough person.
Yes,
to where he didn't need that much more of a push.
No,
it was just a way for him to stay off the streets and make money with his friends.
Yes.
And boy, does he do it well.
Kevin Smith has always said that the reason why he wrote stuff for him was because he just finds him to be an incredibly funny person, just a naturally funny person.
Well, and it's funny. So what was great, going back to my previous experience that I mentioned, at the podcast, I got to go watch them do live and everything. They they brought up doing Dogma because it was around the time that Alan Rickman had just recently passed and everything.
Yeah.
And Jason Mewes was so nervous working with such a big name of Hollywood, he memorized just about the entire script to make sure that he did not mess up any of his lines.
Yup.
To make sure that, he did not mess up any of his scenes because he did not want to upset him.
Yeah.
And I think that is just so cool because, you find out, through other interviews that Alan Rickman is just he was such a easy flow person to work with. He was always willing to help and everything, but he just had that intimidating factor about him on screen because he was just such a high echelon of actor.
Yes.
And, caused people to just up their game. And that is just one of the coolest things that I took away from hearing him talk about doing the movie with him and everything.
Yes. Jason Mewes has been in a couple of other movies that aren't Kevin Smith films, but they are kind of few and far between, or they are like cameos where he just basically walks on and
I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but I remember watching it over at my in-laws' house, and the whole premise was his wife becomes a vampire, I believe. It's wife or girlfriend, one of the two. It's either vampire or zombie, and so he goes out and essentially he either kills people or lures them back to the apartment for her to feed on because he loves her.
And I have not seen that one.
It's not great. But if you are intrigued to see Jason Mewes sort of outside of his J bubble, then you might want to look that up and see what that one is.
Let's see. So he's doing a couple of different things with a TV series right now called Adults Only. He's doing a couple of other like random movies like Moose Jaws, apparently.
Moose Jaws.
And then Jay and Silent Bob
reboot.
Get a reboot.
Yeah, I bet you if I look through it, I'll recognize the name of it.
Oh, yeah, he did do a couple of episodes of The Flash. I forgot about that. So, yeah. I like that. So, Jason Mewes.
So, here, who's next on the list while I look this up? Because now I'm curious.
I mean, if we're doing Jay, then we got to do Silent Bob next.
Okay, that's fine. Go for
it. Silent Bob, of course, played by Kevin Smith. Writer, director, the entire reason to why this movie exists, Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith took the role of Silent Bob. Originally, it was supposed to go to one of his friends, and then he was like, no, he's like, I'm way fatter than that guy. He's like, and I can just stand there. So that's what he did, and he gave himself that role. Little did he know that he would be typecast as that person for many years to come due to his own writing of that character. So there you go. But Silent Bob is actually, he's one of the pivotal roles in every single film because he delivers the line that makes sense at the right opportunity, or he says the one joke that is very funny. And it's usually a reference to something else. It's usually a reference to another film of some sort. So in Dogma, like his one real line is "no ticket" after he throws the angels off the train, which is, of course, a great reference to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he throws the Nazis off the blimp, and then he says to the crowd, "no ticket."
And then everyone starts flashing their stuff, and it's hilarious.
Yes, which is also really funny because it was on a Nazi blimp, and he was speaking English.
Ooh, that's a really good.
I just put that together.
Plot hole.
That's a plot hole right there.
We'll have to
All
save
those
that for when we
Germans.
do Indiana Jones.
I don't know. Maybe I can watch it and something will explain it. But yes, but Kevin Smith is usually the one that that says the line that like everybody seems to resonate with. Even in Chasing Amy, when he does his whole monologue, which is actually really funny. But the line from Clerks is still probably my favorite. You know. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold here. But when he says the thing that, you know, like there's a lot of girls out there, but not all of them will bring you lasagna at work.
Yeah.
Like that's a great line. And that is such a true thing. Is that like, you know, you can talk about all the girls that you could possibly date or marry and stuff like that. I was like, but if you actually find yourself like a woman who will bring you dinner, it's like because she knows that you didn't eat, that's a keeper right there.
Yeah, especially one that didn't suck 37 dicks.
In a row?
Still, that guy steals the entire movie with that one line.
Especially like she walks out when she's walking out and he says, "Try not to suck any dicks on the way to your car."
And then he walks out following
the
her.
dude starts to follow her. Okay, so yeah, we can't just veer off into Clerks and just start spouting off lines. All right,
It's our
so
show.
next one on the list, let us go ahead and do Salma Hayek as the Muse.
Yes.
As Serendipity.
This was, you know, she is a very versatile actor. Her roles that she has taken on in her career, you know, range from, you know, very deep drama.
Yes.
And, you know,
She's done biopics and stuff too.
Yep.
It's like,
and then you have comedies like this one, and then Grown Ups
Yeah.
and whatnot, and then you have her in
she was on like many episodes of 30 Rock and
Yep.
was hilarious.
and then you have her in a little bit more serious or like action roles. She is in a Oliver Stone film called Savages, and she is a drug lord, and she is that was kind of a really crazy role for me to watch her in, but that is a very, very great, gritty drug cartel film. If you ever get a chance to watch it, if you have not, it's also got a really good cast in it as well.
Yes. The first movie I remember seeing her in though, and like being like, oh, okay, like she's really cool, is Desperado. the Robert Rodriguez film, the sequel to El Mariachi.
Yes, with Antonio Banderas.
Yes, and some of the best action fighting gun scenes I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, so she is in that movie as the primary
Love interest,
actress
I guess.
and love interest in the film, but she's also famous for doing Frida, and
I think Frida would probably be her most famous role just because of it. You know, her portrayal of it is still talked about to this day.
Yes.
You know, through, you know, Academy Awards and stuff like that whenever like films are made and whatnot. So
Yes.
it's she's definitely established. She's still acting and doing a lot of great projects, and if
Yes,
you become a fan of her, I highly suggest seeing
The
all her
last thing
stuff.
that she was in was The Hummingbird Project. But she is in pre-production for a movie called Limited Partners and a movie, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which I am assuming is a sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard.
That'd be interesting. And I have not had a chance to see The Hitman's Bodyguard yet.
Neither have I, but our previous owner of this podcast actually did a review of it, so I should probably go back and listen to that episode.
I mean, we don't have to.
I could go into the next room and talk to him and ask him what he thought about it. So there's that as well. But Salma Hayek is just a top-notch actress, and she seems to be a top-notch human being. Like the amount of charity work that she does is insane. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that she did where, I mean, she goes to these other countries and builds or gets funding for hospitals and like that kind of crap. I mean, she really goes out there and tries to use her celebrity to great effect. So
spreads the wealth and tries to make a world a better
always
place.
Appreciate that.
Cannot hold that against her.
Next on the list, Chris Rock.
Chris Rock.
If you don't know who Chris Rock is, you're failing as a human being.
Christopher Rockford. No, that's not his real name. Don't ever call him that.
That would be funny. It's like, I heard it on a podcast that your name was Christopher Rockford.
What? Why honky called? No, I'm just kidding. He probably, he might call him.
So yeah, Chris Rock as Rufus is just hilarious. Honestly, just like Alan Rickman delivers some of the best lines, has several ad-lib lines as well that made it into the movie.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt if there's, some directors who are just smart enough to be like, here's your general purpose and your general character, just do your thing.
Yeah.
And he would still make an excellent dialogue out of all the scenes he was in, just because he knows how to work off other people. He knows how to read a scene really well and the emotion that needs to be added to it. But obviously he is most known for being a stand-up comic and most of his comedic roles in films. Mm-hmm. But he also has some, good dramas under his belt, a little bit more serious films. He was my first role that I remember him from was when he was super young, and he plays Pookie in New Jack City, who not many people know him from, and he was just a straight-up crackhead in that film.
I remember because he's in I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, as the guy who wants to buy a rib.
A rib.
Just a rib. I sure am hungry. Yeah, that was the first role where I was like, that dude's hilarious. But yes, he's been in so many different things now. Popping up in all these different comedy specials and stuff like that. But, I mean, if you don't know who he is, then you're an idiot. But I did want to point out this, though, and I thought this was a great line as I cough, that he ad-libbed several different lines, but the one that that I thought was actually really funny was when he wakes up on the train, he says the words "poopy trim," which doesn't make any sense to anybody unless they're like a super hardcore Kevin Smith fan who picked up on it. But in Mallrats, when William is standing in front of the Magic Eye poster, he is woken from his trance by Brody, and he says, "Poopy trim."
I never caught that.
And so he ad-libbed the line in there because he knew that it was said in the previous film.
Right.
It's like, and I was like, that's great. Also, apparently he kept calling Silent Bob Biggie because he kept forgetting that he was supposed to call him Tubby.
Biggie, close enough. He makes it work.
We already talked about Alanis Morissette being God, and Alanis Morissette is one of those classic 90s alt-rock girls that came from Canada, of all places.
Of all places.
But yes, she's an amazing artist in and of her own right. So she's not an actress. She just
no. That was
show up in a movie.
I think she was supposed to get a little bit bigger part, but she was touring because she was big at the time and couldn't do the role that she was originally intended. So Kevin Smith compromised and said, "Hey, we'll let you play God."
Yes,
which is a pretty big compromise, and she added some quirkiness to it. Had a great wardrobe for being God, and I think she, for having no lines, nailed it. And I, in my opinion, can't picture somebody else playing God other than her, at least for this film.
All right, on to George Carlin as Cardinal Glick, which still
so wrong in so many levels.
He's such an atheist, and yet here he is playing playing this bishop, and just
a pretty big role in the Catholic sense. And
sorry, cardinal, not bishop. So,
yeah,
because cardinal's higher than bishop. But yeah,
get your Catholic chess pieces right, okay?
Yeah, the bigger the hat, the more powerful the person. I remember, okay? It's like, and then finally you get to the point, it's like you got the Pope hat, but then for the most part, he just wears the little one. And so it's kind of like it goes up and then it goes back down again. It's like, no, I don't need the giant hat to prove that I have more power than you. I'm just going to wear this white beanie instead.
I got the Pope mobile.
Boom. And the latest Pope removed the bulletproof glass.
Hey, you know.
Because he was like, no, nobody's going to shoot me.
That is for another day. That is a totally separate animal. So, George Carlin.
George Carlin as Cardinal Glick.
He was a very big Kevin Smith fan as well. Close little, friend of his and whatnot, and would love to just play whatever kind of little roles Kevin Smith set up for him.
Yeah.
I believe he kind of gave free range to George Carlin, though, to, for his lines and whatnot, because it's George Carlin. He definitely does not need any direction. You just need to give him his wardrobe and go, this is your character. Speak as if you're actually this person.
Yep.
And he was genius enough when he was alive to just take it on and provide the level of comedy that only he could.
Yep.
So, and if you do not know who George Carlin is and you are not a true fan of comedy, I feel that he is probably going to be, I would feel, referred to as a godfather of comedy for years to come, because
he will always be one of the legends.
To do an HBO special, every year for almost 2 decades, that's just ridiculous. And that's obviously not including all the other little specials that he did outside of it.
Yep.
And podcasts or appearances or tours that he did. He is outstanding, and it's unfortunate he's no longer with us, but luckily we have things like this to remember him by.
Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the lead, I guess, which would be Linda Fiorentino as Bethany.
Yes.
And I will tell you this, she was like Kevin's 8th choice to play the part. And he actually said later on that, in retrospect, he probably should have given the role to Janine Garofalo.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think she would have done better?
Well, he just said because Linda was was kind of a pain to work with.
Really?
Yeah, saying that she didn't talk to him because she'd be mad at him for some reason, on different days and stuff, and just that she was rough to work with. But I thought she did a fine job in the role. She was cool, but it's also one of those things the people that Kevin does not get along with don't come back for other movies.
No, because when you have that kind of tight knit universe, you don't want influences like that. It takes away from everything.
Yes,
and it's just not a good idea. So probably a smart move on his part, but I'm glad it at least worked out well enough to where she landed her part, and I felt that she portrayed it well.
So here's what I like is that so Linda Fiorentino has been in a bunch of different stuff, but she hasn't been in anything since 2009. But here's what I love about her description. Linda Fiorentino, born March 9th, 1958, or 1960.
Huh?
Yep. Or 1960. Nobody really knows.
That's great.
So, yes. That's... I don't know.
That makes no sense.
She's never been one of my favorite actresses. She was in Men in Black. And she's been in other stuff too, but yeah, she never really was one of those types of people that I was like, oh yeah, she's a really great actress. She was good in this role, but I didn't really. Honestly, the role could have been portrayed by other people just as well.
All right, I'll give you that one.
Yeah. So I got that one, and I got nothing else. Okay, so let's get down to our last two.
Okay.
Who you want first?
Option B.
B. Okay, so that would be B for Ben Affleck, otherwise known as Batman, or Daredevil.
No.
And several other. Ben Affleck, everybody.
I'm sorry, he is not Batman.
He technically is Batman.
he can technically be all he wants. You know what? He's not my Batman.
He's not a bad Batman, okay? He's not bad.
Well, he's not a great.
He's
Batman
not great either. But I mean, he's better than
Well, at
friggin',
least-
Clooney. Clooney was horrible.
I like George Clooney though.
Clooney is a good actor, but he was horrible as Batman. Kilmer was, and I like Val Kilmer. I like Val Kilmer a lot, but he still sucked as Batman.
Well, those two movies.
Never cast a blonde Batman. I'm sorry, you just don't cast a blonde Batman, and you don't do it.
So, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
This man has been cruising around in movies and stuff for a good while now. He has 70 credits to his acting, but he's also a producer, director, writer, and has won
lot of awards.
Oscars,
Yeah.
like for Good Will Hunting and all of that kind of stuff. So, but yes, he's been cruising along for a while now. Let's see.
A lot of big roles. I mean, there was very few films where he was just supporting actor.
Now I want to go back and actually watch this because apparently he was in Field of Dreams as a baseball fan at Fenway Park, but he's uncredited. I want to go back and watch that now. Let's see. Yeah, he was in School Ties, Dazed and Confused, where he was O'Banion.
Yes.
And
Giving out the whoopings.
let's see. He was also in Glory Days and Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and then he did Good Will Hunting, which is like the one movie that really put him on the map.
Well, yeah, him and Matt Damon. You pair him up. Same film as
All those
Robin
Miramax films.
Robin Williams, and
It's
then
like, who's playing them? Probably Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They put those guys in everything. Phantoms.
he was a bomb in Phantoms, yo.
And then he starts to go off into some of these like Shakespeare in Love, Forces of Nature. And he does Dogma. And he has a small part in Boiler Room. I remember that.
Oh, he delivers. He is probably one of the most pivotal and like I wouldn't say crucial, but most related like sales lines in that whole movie. And quite funny. Quite funny though. My wife just actually talked about, she was writing up some stuff. They have a dry erase board at work, and she put his quote from that movie up, and nobody knew where it was from or who said it.
His speech is comparable to Alec Baldwin in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yes.
His ABC Always Be Closing speech. It is comparable to that.
Yeah. So yeah, he for having such a small part in that movie, he maybe has a total of 10 minutes of screen time, but nails it every single scene.
Yes. And then he also did like a couple of other like Geely and Daredevil.
We don't
and,
talk
like, all
about
that.
those.
But I'm gonna tell you this. You know what my most underrated film for Ben Affleck is?
What would that be?
Changing Lanes.
Changing Lanes. I don't think I ever saw Changing Lanes.
So Changing Lanes was a movie. I ended up seeing it just to show you exactly where this was. Petite 4
oh wow,
in Collinsville.
Wow.
I went and saw it there
Really
it was
showing your age, man.
It was like $2 to go see that movie.
It'd probably still be $2 if it was still open.
If it was still open. It's now a church. At least I think it is still a church. But Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson, I told you before that I really love those movies that are just like about a certain point in people's lives.
Right.
It's not like about their entire life, or it's like just this thing that happens, this event that happens, and then how it sort of concludes. And Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson, he plays Ben Affleck, I think, plays a lawyer, and Samuel L. Jackson plays a guy who is going to court, and they get into a car accident, and Samuel L. Jackson ends up being late to this hearing so he can get his kids. And but at the same time, Ben Affleck like loses this file that he really needs that's super important, and Samuel L. Jackson like has it, and it's like, and it just leads these two like going after each other for a little bit before finally realizing that they shouldn't be trying to hurt each other; they should be trying to help each other.
Right.
So really good movie in my opinion.
I will have to put that in my to watch list.
Let's see here. What else do we got? He, of course, has been now as Batman in Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, which was a dumb movie. And then he was in Justice League, which was an okay film. I mean, it was
They
okay. It was not great.
They sucked.
But he's supposed to be in The Batman, which was supposed to be a solo Batman film starring him, of which if they stay true to every DC version of Batman, they will do his origin story again. It's like, all right, we get it, DC. We know Batman. We know where he came
That's
from.
all they have to work with, though. Everybody else sucks.
And then he's supposed to be in Justice League Part 2, which, you know, who knows how that's going to turn out. But
Woohoo.
yeah, the DC universe needs to step up their game because they're botching at every other film as far as I'm concerned.
They're really far behind the 8 ball. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yes. Speaking of Behind the 8 Ball, now there's another podcast on the network called Behind the 8 Ball. So, all right, now we got Matt Damon.
Who's that?
Matt Damon is Ben Affleck's best friend.
Aw.
So he's one of these guys, obviously another top-notch actor. They can really throw him into practically any role and he will be just fine. But I mean, obviously he's the lead in Good Will Hunting, along with Robin Williams, which is just a great film in and of itself. Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yes.
Superb in that one. The Departed.
My top 3 films of Matt Damon have to be, they are going to be, first one is Rounders. Mm-hmm. And made in late 90s, poker movie.
Yes.
Still held today as one of the best Texas Hold'em movies ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have him in The Departed as Sergeant Sullivan, who is a rat for a mafia guy. He's the inside man for the police. And then my third film would have to be Good Will Hunting.
So I'll throw The Martian in there just because I love that movie.
That movie was great. That movie was well done. It was a lot better than I anticipated it to be. All I know is that in the Hollywood universe, America has spent a shit ton of money trying to retrieve Matt Damon from all sorts of danger.
Like sending a squad of Rangers to rescue him in World War II and rescuing him from Mars. And oh, man. I would say this. For me, my top 3 Matt Damon films have got to be Good Will Hunting, Talented Mr. Ripley, and then let's go with Jason Bourne.
I like Jason.
The Jason Bourne series.
Yeah, I like the series for what they are. I don't know what it is about them. I can sit down and watch them, and I do enjoy them, but they're not ones that I don't even think I own them. And
yeah.
So to me, I'd have to dig a little deeper and find out what exactly is missing from them, because for me to not own a film that takes a little level of some sort of dislike, and I can't pinpoint it. But I do like them. I think they're great films. They're definitely really well choreographed, and
yes,
obviously the stories in them are really, really intriguing to follow.
But here's the thing I'm currently loving about Matt Damon is that apparently he is saying yes to every cameo role they can give him.
Oh, you're talking about his appearance in,
he's in
Thor Ragnarok?
Deadpool 2.
Yes.
He is in Thor Ragnarok. And
well, he seems he genuinely is also, comes off as one of those people that is just an all-around fun guy.
Yes.
And, and obviously, from other films, that he has a good sense of humor about things. And so, yeah, to put him in those little tidbits and whatnot is hilarious. And when you catch them, you're just like, oh my God, how the hell did they get him to agree to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's probably just like, they probably just asked him. He's like, oh, absolutely. Where do you need me?
Matt Damon is currently filming Ford versus Ferrari, where he is playing Carroll Shelby. So that'll be interesting to see.
Nice little biopic.
Yeah, that'll be nice. But yeah, that's the cast right there. Did I miss anybody? Did I forget to talk about somebody? I don't think.
Not to my knowledge. I think we nailed, especially all the key players that you see throughout most of the film and that have pivotal and intriguing points.
Yes. I think that
unless you want to talk about the director.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's Kevin Smith. I mean, it's so. I mean, obviously, Kevin Smith is Kevin Smith, who's the writer, director slash podcast guru, who's got like 1,000 different podcasts right now.
Yeah, the amount that man does on a weekly basis, what he puts out and everything, and then the the amount of touring that he does also is just insane.
Yes.
I am very sad that I wasn't able to go see him this weekend when he came to St. Louis, but alas, I know that he'll be back. He likes coming to this area. He does enjoy it. It was really great. Last time we talked about a few of the places he went to eat. He had a good story about Gus's Pretzels, which if you remind me to, I will tell you about. Not sure if
this was what last year?
Yeah. Oh no, beginning of this year, January, February of this year when they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is pre-heart attack.
Pre-heart attack.
So yeah, he wouldn't go there now.
No,
because he's eating vegan.
Yeah.
So
boo.
Boo. I only say this because I'm currently eating vegan as well, and it kind of sucks.
Oh well, you'll make it through. I know.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway,
I'll be a recovering vegan soon enough. But yeah, that's everything. I mean, we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah,
but let's go ahead and do our ranking anyway, even though people know that we're going to give it a high rank. I am going to give this a solid 8.
8. I give it a solid 8.5.
All right.
Yep.
I'd say so. Yeah, that's a good rating for this one. It is funny throughout. It is really intelligent and delivered exceptionally well. Obviously, it's a Kevin Smith film, so the direction, and camera setup is really not great. But that's because Kevin Smith doesn't care about that kind of stuff.
And going back to the delivery of it, that it's great because it's a 2-hour film.
Yeah,
and it does not feel at all like a 2-hour film. There are no dragging parts of it. Everything just sort of keeps rolling and just keeps building.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're not intrigued by it, then that sort of comedy just isn't for you. And we do not apologize for at least trying to point you in the direction of a great film.
Yes. So obviously we liked this movie, and we'll probably be watching everything that Kevin Smith does going forward, just because that's the kind of people we are. But remember, if you're going to go out there and watch these movies, please grab your popcorn.